Okay, we'll call the November meeting of the Iowa City Human Rights Commission to order.
Yeah, she's doing it tomorrow.
And we'll start with roll call. Commissioner Pandya. Absent.
Yeah. Her and Dr. Liz are both going.
Sorry?
Her and Dr. Liz are both going.
Both, okay.
Maybe there's a book signing?
All right. Commissioner Schaefer Van Hout. Did I pronounce that correctly? Anya, Anya's not here anymore. I'm sorry. We'll come back to that. Kolash here. Kadora.
Here.
Abdullahi.
Here.
Commissioner Priest.
Here.
Commissioner Lusala.
Here.
Paul Shantz.
Here.
And Mendez Shannon absent. Okay. And before we go further, we'd introduce our newest Human Rights Commissioner. And I'll give you a chance to go ahead and you can introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Emily Harkin. I just graduated from the University of Iowa with an English degree and a couple minors in May of 2024. I'm currently working as an AmeriCorps at Iowa Legal Aid. And that's my story for right now. Yeah.
All right, great.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
And we'll go down the row here and just briefly introduce ourselves to Emily.
Sure. Okay. Hi, Emily. My name is Viana Kadura, and I have joined the commission since, I think, January last year. Stephanie, she keeps track maybe of the dates. And I do run, I founded and I run the Mariam Girls Club, which is an advocacy club for middle and high school girls here in town. Yeah. Nice having you. Thank you.
My name is Mark Priest. I'm a retired Christian pastor. I'm on my second term on the commission, in the second year of it.
Nice to meet you.
I've been here since 2007.
Doug Kolash, I've been on the commission for 2 years, a little over 2 years. I finished out a unexpired term, and just last week was appointed to a new full term. So that's news as well. And I lived in Iowa. Well, I attended the University of Iowa, moved to Madison, Wisconsin for about 10 years, and have been back in Iowa City about 4 years now. My partner and 2 kids, we live on the west side. They both go to West High. And in my day job, I'm an IT consultant for healthcare organizations.
Hi, it's really nice to meet you. My name's Kelsey. I moved back to Iowa about 7 years ago. I had grown up in very rural southern Iowa and came back a little bit unexpectedly but joyfully, and I came back to work in addressing all forms of mass violence and preventing that, but particularly thinking about our peace approaches in cities. So that's what I do in my day job, and I think I've been on the commission for about 3 years, almost 2.5, something like that anyway. About that time. Yeah.
We're about the same time, I think, yeah.
Something in there. Yeah.
It's nice to meet you. My name is Idris Abdullahi. I'm actually a student at the university. I'm a senior currently. My day job, I actually work with the Multicultural Development Center of Iowa, and I work with Systems Unlimited as well. Extracurricular activities, you could say. I have a business on the side where we kind of work on making current recycling practices more efficient. But yeah, it's a little about me.
Welcome aboard. My name is Roger Lusala. This is my second term. I did finish an expired term, and then I was appointed to a full term, so this is my first year of the second term. I've been living in Iowa City for almost 30 years, immigrated from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I moved here from the state of California where I did my undergrad. I came to Iowa to do my grad school. I did work in a nonprofit arena for a long time. I did manage a couple nonprofits here. But now my daytime job, I work for the state of Iowa in the Department of Family Wellbeing and Protection Services. So.
Excellent. Great. Well, welcome, Emily. All right, do we have a volunteer to read the Native American Land Acknowledgement tonight? I can. We meet tonight in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of Native American nations, to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within the homelands of the Iowa, Meskwaki, and Sauk, and because history is complex and time goes far back beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other indigenous peoples here. The history of broken treaties and forced removal that dispossessed indigenous peoples of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work toward equity, restoration, and reparations. Especially good to read that this week with Thanksgiving coming
Yes.
up. Yes. All right. Next, item 3 on the agenda, approval of the September 25th, 2024 and November 4th, 2024 minutes.
Move.
Second?
Moved by Priest, seconded by Lusala. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes approved. Agenda item 4, public comment on items not on the agenda. Looks like we have no commentators here with us tonight, so we will move on to item 5, correspondence. The only correspondence I saw, Stephanie, was related to the grant, and we can address that when we get there. Was there anything
There
else?
was a letter from Simon Andrew, or an email that's in there about an upcoming program, I believe.
Letter, the film scene?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay, yes, there we are. Yeah. So there is a letter in our packet from Simon Andrew, the executive director at Film Scene, inviting us and the community on Wednesday, December 4th at 7 p.m. to their location at the Chauncey for a screening of The Pruitt-Igoe Myth, presented by the Housing Fellowship and Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition. Okay.
Okay.
So
Great.
let
Thank you.
everyone read that. Yeah, that was great for them to send that. Okay. All right. Item 6, updates on outreach and engagement by the police department.
There is a handout that you do have for that one.
Okay.
It's from the new, it's on police letterhead.
Right. Yeah. So in the police letterhead, there's one of
one?
the loose
Yes.
handouts.
Yeah.
It's one of tonight's handouts there. A letter of introduction from our new community outreach officer, Eric Nealand. And Stephanie, I assume Eric will be joining us at meetings in the future like Kevin did?
He hopes to. I think he said his wife works 6 to 6, and they have 3 young children, so it just kind of matters on the wife's schedule as to whether or not he'll be able to come every month or not.
Okay.
He went home sick today, so that's why he's not here today. Otherwise, he would have been.
All right. Well, I hope he feels better and look forward to meeting him in person.
Yeah.
Okay, item 7, we have a funding request from the United Nations Association of Johnson County. This is in the packet, the beige background form. Okay. Did everyone get a chance to review this prior to the meeting, or do we need a minute to catch up?
I could use a minute just to get my head on straight.
Sure. All right, we'll take a minute here just to read through that application one more time.
Need a motion to approve the court request?
If there's any discussion first, and then we can have a motion. Thoughts, concerns?
maybe just noting that it's always helpful to know like how many people would be involved. So how many people would be a part of the roundtable discussion. I see that they have, they intend that, that 7 of their former Night of Thousand Dinners honorary NGOs would be a part of the roundtable discussions. I think it's always great to know if there, in addition to the organizations that are part of it, specific community members that might be able to be a part of that, or how many people might be a part of those conversations. But with the information that we have, like I think that would be, looks like an interesting conversation. I hope that we could hear more about it, maybe after the fact too, but. Yeah.
So I was going to say as well, I think, I think, the discussions, it sounds like something that would be interesting and worthwhile. I would love a report at the end of, kind of what they discuss and what their, because it does say conclusions and suggested action items, so I'd be interested to see that.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mark, are you moving to approve?
Mark, motion.
Yeah.
We need a second.
Motion to approve that
Okay.
request.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. Any other discussion? Any second?
I will second it.
Second by Lusala. Okay. All right. Those in favor of approving the funding request for the United Nations Association, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. All right, agenda item 8, our strategic plan for 2024. And everyone has this in the spiral bound. Very pretty published document here. All right. So, Stephanie, are we looking to approve this? Are we looking for discussion?
I think you're looking to approve it, and of course, I didn't save a copy for myself. To approve it, and then also to see specifically on, I think, pages 9 and 11, kind of talk about the plan,
Okay.
the internal goals, the external goals. But whether or not in looking at that, if you feel that there would be any benefit to any follow-up or any further things needed as it relates to Bluebird Solutions, I think, or Jennifer?
Can I just check, because I was not able to, unfortunately, be a part of either strategic plan conversation. I did speak with the consultant separately, and I had a really great conversation with her, but I'm just curious, does everyone feel equipped to approve this today, or based on the conversations you've had so far, and the dialogues we've had so far, or would you appreciate a chance to actually review it? I'm speaking, I know we've got a new member on our commission as well, just want to check where we're at today.
Honestly, I actually think we need to actually take some time to read it and digest it, and maybe take another meeting to approve it. That's just speaking for me. Especially since some people were not there and did not take the chance to engage in the conversation. I think maybe taking this back and taking the time to review it and coming back, especially since we wanted to make this more of a working document. So taking it back and taking some time to review it and come back and have maybe another discussion round. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I need more time with it. Looking ahead to December, if we want to be abrupt about it, December 17th might be a date, a Tuesday that we could work. I'm looking at Tuesdays, that's all.
Just a friendly reminder to talk into the microphone.
Just a friendly reminder, what?
To talk into the microphone.
Oh, I didn't think I needed to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on it.
Good, thank you. Otherwise, you know, the quality is a lot different.
Okay, I'm suggesting that we'd like to be expeditious about it, but not tonight. December 17th, I'm suggesting would be a Human Rights Commission meeting for the sole purpose of this and any other business that's necessary year-end.
Others?
That being said,
Being said, yes.
I would like to take the time to review it. I can always give my feedback. I will not be here for the December meeting
Recording in progress.
because I'll be traveling from the 16th to the 27th, but I will give my feedback. I just think I don't want to rush into this important
Yeah.
document.
Shall we wait till the new year?
I don't think we need to wait to the new year. I just don't think us getting this document tonight, we need to rush into approving it. I think we need to take some time to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do think there's value in meeting in December to kind of approve it
Yeah.
or, have a discussion about it at least. That way we go into the new year
Yes.
with a clear plan in place.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I'm curious when if we have any other new commission members that will join us as we move into the new year, or if our current
You'll just
membership-
have one.
We just have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we got Emily and we got Doug.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
reassuring.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
And the meeting actually in December is on the 24th, so later on your agenda is to pick a date. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the Tuesday before the 17th, so.
Yeah, I saw that on the agenda. That's why I suggested the 17th. And then
Okay.
I'm retired, so pick a day. You want to meet at noon? It works for me.
So Stephanie, just for my curiosity, when do you think we might get that new member?
The new member wouldn't start until the 1st.
Okay.
But the new member is, they're on the TRC, so I guess I wouldn't be too concerned with them not being able to hit the ground running in
Okay,
terms of this,
okay.
so,
Great.
Or the new member that we be getting there on the TRC?
yeah.
So in that case, I don't know if we need a motion, but I would put it on the table that we actually approve this when we have our next full quorum of what our 2025 Human Rights Commission will look like. So that would be in our January meeting.
January meeting.
Just for the sake of, I know that was even part of the feedback, was that sometimes when decisions are made before that current term, it can be very difficult for people to feel like they're a part of them. So that, I know we want to be expeditious, but I would just put that forward as an opportunity.
But this, we have possibly 90% of the member that will be moving on to the next year over here. So giving us time to discuss it possibly in December, we'll be ahead of the game.
So it'd be
We'll
the
give Emily-
23rd would be the regularly
We'll
scheduled.
give Emily and Doug time.
Right. Yeah. It's not like a typical end of the year where we have three members.
Three member
rolling
going
off
out,
and three
and
on.
yes,
It is
yeah.
just the one that, yeah.
And I think once you actually look at it, like, I don't know if it needs to be read like, page to page, because there's kind of an introduction that talks about, the first time you did strategic planning with Jennifer, and then the end of it is kind of just notes and information on those surveys that you guys took. So really, the meat and potatoes is just those pages I mentioned before.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you don't want to read the whole document, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of 9, or you could even just, page 6 is the executive summary. So there you go, too.
I want
So-
you to read the whole document and come prepared. I don't want to read it aloud at the meeting.
Read it, dissect it,
Right.
come prepared, make some decision, move forward so we can have a productive next year.
Okay. So let's move to put the strategic plan on the agenda for our December meeting.
Yes, then we keep the agenda light.
Okay. Right, and that would pretty much be all we do in December.
So the
And
December meeting, which we
December
haven't
meeting,
set yet.
which we'll set a date
Okay,
later
later.
on tonight, yeah.
Okay,
those-
I'm actually confused now. Are we just discussing it in December, or are we voting to approve it in December?
Voting to discuss and vote to approve.
Okay, I would still advocate for January, just for the sake of trying to address things we've discussed as issues, not just taking up what other people have shared before. I would still advocate that we vote to approve it in January. I don't think there's a reason for us to vote it into December, but I'm not going to stand in the way.
And we can include that as part of the discussion in December.
Sure.
too.
Yes.
And we can decide then to vote in January. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, new members are going to be new members, and so it could be that they may also see something that they have concerns about that's not a concern, and it's just that they haven't been on the commission long enough to kind of, yeah. So that's just, I mean, you could have to redo this whole process for what could just be a misunderstanding or not necessarily getting how things are done with the commission.
Yeah.
So that's just something to think about too, if you're just waiting for a new member.
Okay.
All right, all good things to think about, and as you look through things and put together notes for our December discussion. Okay. Excuse me. Agenda item 9 tonight is our Racial Equity and Social Justice Grant fiscal year 24 reports. Those are in your packet. And then also the revised application form and scoring criteria for fiscal year 25. So first, any comments or discussion on the reports from the 2024 recipients? Looks like we have a report from Right House of Fashion, Houses into Homes, Indigenous Art Alliance, and Open Heartland. Yeah,
I
Roger.
always like reading the reports, but I'm hoping maybe in the future we can maybe invite some member so we can ask some questions.
I would love that.
Yeah, you know, maybe not all of them, but maybe just people so we can actually ask question on. It's great to read the reports, but I think sometimes putting a face and asking questions on the reports will be.
I like people to be able to talk about the show and tell, be
it
excited
would be
about what they
beneficial.
did, come and brag about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that
Maybe having them when they come, the reports day to come do a little 5 minutes presentation.
And I think that's a great segue into the discussion for the 2025 grant is I would love to actually add that in and say, once during the year you need to come present to the commission
About
a report, or, I mean, because I know there are, what is it now? There's multiple times they have to report, right?
quarterly.
Quarterly.
One of, I would support that. I also.
Twice? They have to report twice.
Twice.
Midterm and at the end.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea. I think too, in kind of connecting it with some of the conversations we've had in the past, of how do we make sure that we use our time to connect with these organizations? Thinking about maybe even, we had discussed and decided at one point in time to assign each of us to one of the grant recipients. And if we can continue in that process, we could in fact have one of us actually speak to these updates regularly. Someone who is more connected with what the grant was meant to be doing and connected with that organization. And so, and maybe even going to those places as well. We've discussed that previously. I put this forward mostly because coming to these sessions in an evening event after work, sometimes that requires childcare, sometimes that requires transportation. There are barriers to being a part of a meeting like this. So I just want to put that out there that we might have another way of getting the same result, which is more connection to the work that's happening. And we might be able to do that also with some of the initiatives we've already discussed, as long as we intend on continuing them.
And I think if we put it in as a requirement, it could be submit a presentation to us, either in
Yes.
person or they could submit
They
a
could,
5 minute,
yeah.
5 minute video that we watch in a meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and I think we have tried to, to assign a commissioner to the organization. And one of the things we always have to understand also, and Stephanie always reminds us, these are also volunteer positions. We all also have full-time jobs, and we are also connected to many other organizations in the community, and trying to connect with those organizations. And as somebody that was assigned to one of those organizations, it became another job trying to plan that, just to connect with the organization. And this was to earn them a check. It became another planning event just to connect. So I think if it is a part of a requirement of a grant, and I remember as a nonprofit executive, that was a requirement. I had to sit in to the home and community grant application to present my grant, because it was part of the requirement. You had to present because the grant was required that. So I don't think it's not, we're not requiring them to do it all the time. It's they quote, it's twice annually. So if they have to do it to present once for 5 minutes, it's part of the grant application, just like sitting on writing the report as part of the requirement. They have to present it as well. So because trying to attend all the events of the organization, we all try to hit so many events and those organizations that we connect to. On top of that, we try to connect with other organizations, then we try to do the regular job. And we also try to do all those meetings monthly. It becomes so much commitment that we can't keep up sometimes. So
I think that's really well said, Roger. I would hesitate to create another barrier to entry, though, for some of the programs that we might want to fund in the racial equity and social justice grants. And so I think I'm fully in support, and I think we'll talk about this too in like the 2025 grant criteria of inviting people to say, please, we'd love you to come. We'd love you to come and speak with us, but I would be very cautious and very hesitant actually to make it another requirement of that grant. But I think it would be wonderful to have an open invitation and to encourage that that they come and speak with us about their activities, because I think it's also just a wonderful way for us to learn about what's happening too in the community as well.
As well, if we're trying to match our grants to other grants that the city offers, I think the Home and Community Fund, they actually requires a member of the organization to be present to one of their grant presentation. So if we're trying to match all those grants, like we said, we wanted to match all those grants, those are city requirements, so they are requiring them. I'm not saying that we require them. I'm giving them an opportunity to also come to speak to the greater, the people that are watching this, and to speak to about their organization. So I'm just offering it up to them, because this can broaden instead of just submitting a quarterly report, they get to talk about their organization, answer questions, and things like that. So
Fantastic. I love the opportunity as like an open invite. That's fantastic. Yeah. Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, that actually brings up a question I had. I know that City Council expressed, different concerns about grants and the process, and across the city.
Yeah.
Were there any directives or anything that came out of that we need to know, or were those incorporated into this?
I think the focus was not on this grant, but their conversations, from what they hear from community members, are that, it seems like the city always gives money to the same organizations.
Yep.
Indoor, 2 different city grants are giving money to the same agencies. I think there was concern also that newer or startup organizations have a tougher time competing against more established organizations. I remember they also talked about just making sure when you're deciding who to select, that staff's to provide you a list of who's received funding, that's applied for funding from you, who's also received funding from other city grants. I think it was either in the past 3 years or 5 years, that I would have to check. And then they also spoke about that, you know, the city has different grants, and just making sure that when people apply that they're, like, if you're looking for operational, like, you know, they'll be like, oh, that's aid to agency, or, you know, that's more housing, HCDC commission. Neighborhood stuff, you know, there's a neighborhood grant that the city offers. There's a climate action grant that the city offers. And that some grants are meant to sustain organizations and others are meant more as a special project.
Yeah.
And I think the grant, this particular grant, is seen not as, you know, intended to be something that people rely on to get each year, and that it's more for specific projects or special projects.
All grants are approved by the city council, regardless of which organization?
All grants that come through a city board or commission are.
Are they then attuned or watching for duplicity?
I mean, I don't know that. I can't answer that. I mean, I would presume they do. I mean, you know, but
I know the grants are approved, the final approval is with the city council, but I don't think they are watching for
That's a good point, though. I
Yeah.
mean, if the approval comes through there, then the onus, I think, would be on them to see that, right?
well, and I think moving forward, I
But I
mean,
think
every
moving-
board or
having
commission,
the-
including council, will get this list
Yeah.
when they're looking at grants. So.
Yeah. So do we want to, let's take a look at page 1 of the draft for the racial equity, social justice grant. And let's start there.
And I can just kind of go through it.
Yes,
It might
sure.
be a
Yeah,
little
kind of highlight
remedial,
what-
but I
what
can
has
just do that.
changed and-
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. That would be
So
helpful.
the purpose or the header, and this will be in an electronic submission format, so it won't exactly look like this, but the grant was established in 2017 to align with and support the City Council's strategic plan on racial equity, social justice, and human rights. In 2024, the grant objectives were revised to reflect the power structures and duties of the city's human rights city's human rights ordinance, and to support organizations or individuals who work benefits people with low incomes, as well as persons historically or systematically marginalized. And the revision 1 comes from the language that is in the human rights ordinance that talks about why there is a Human Rights Commission, purpose, mission, et cetera. The other language is pulled directly from the City Council strategic plan.
Okay.
So
Directly
they
from
talk
what?
about low incomes as well as persons historically or systematically
Okay.
marginalized. So that's where that language is from. The grant period, you know, obviously, we have to get it out pretty early next year.
Yeah.
So, you know, probably not January, but hopefully sometime in February. But I just left that blank because I wasn't sure exactly what those dates were. But for now, I would put, I mean, are you still kind of wanting to give opportunity? Because right now you give about 4 weeks. So are you still wanting to keep that length of time, or would you want to go shorter? I wouldn't recommend going longer, but
Are you talking for application?
correct, for people to submit.
We usually go about 4 weeks.
Correct.
Yeah, I like it. And then we review it at the February meeting?
Well, not this year, I don't
It
think
won't
you'll
happen in the
be, I don't
February
think
meeting.
they'll even be solicited until February this
Yeah.
year.
Okay.
They go out in February. We might be able to have the applications in March, like by the end of March.
Correct. And,
If we
well,
go
I mean,
4
or
weeks.
the hope is even to launch, you know, that 1st of February, and then it would be the 1st of March, and then you really wouldn't be too different from the cycle you're on currently. So,
I think that sounds more than fine,
Yeah.
especially to maybe catch
Okay.
mid-year fiscal years for nonprofit organizations too.
Yeah, we can always try to shorten things a bit. You know, instead of going 4 weeks, we can go 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Push it for 3 weeks and
Okay.
to try to see. Maybe, yeah.
I mean, from what I've seen, because I get a notification every time one's submitted, I mean, you're going to have people who get it done right away.
Yes.
There's not a lot in the middle, and then you have a lot coming in that last week. So that's kind of how it goes.
And for what I'm seeing here, it looks like we're cutting out some fluff and we're shortening the process, which looks great so far. So,
So are we recommending 3 weeks?
just suggesting, yeah, instead of 4.
Is everyone in favor with 3 weeks?
Sorry, I missed
Instead of
the,
4?
what was the benefit of reducing it by 1 week? I missed that.
Because we're getting it out late, so it's already pushing on the time for the review. So usually we get the grant out January.
Usually you get them at your January meeting date, which, the fourth Tuesday. So everything would just be delayed about a month. If we can get them out February 1st, and you have, you close the deadline, the 1st of March, then you would, it shouldn't take long to compile them using the system we're using. So, I mean, really, you could probably be looking at them that next week.
Yeah. So in that
So-
case, they think that makes a lot of sense. Stephanie, as long as that works in your schedule to
Yeah.
prepare the
That,
packets.
that's the plan. We're using
Yeah.
new software, so,
Okay.
so it's
Okay.
going to be, there's going to be lessons learned and things, so. But if 3 weeks is something you want to see how it goes, you don't have to stick to that each year. If 3 weeks doesn't appear to work this year, you could go back to 4
Forward.
next year, too. So it doesn't have to be set in stone if you just want to get some flexibility to see how that
Yeah.
works out.
Personally,
Yeah.
especially because our calendar is different, and people won't be looking for it at this time frame necessarily. I think it would be important just to do the full 4 weeks, even though February is a short month anyway. So I would just say if we think we can review them in March with that schedule.
I think so.
And with
the only.
the other changes, because we do have repeat applicants, with the other changes, I think keeping the window to 4 weeks probably makes sense,
Yeah.
at least for this year.
If it works for you guys, the staff, so,
Yeah, it's just, whatever. I can make it work, so.
yeah.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Okay, so we'll kind of leave that, we'll firm that up in December then, just to make sure that I can have everything on my end ready to go by February 1st. Project requirements. Projects need to encompass one of the below priorities. Again, these are either taken from the Human Rights Ordinance or the City Council Strategic Plan, which I can send out the link to. I had a few copies and I didn't bring them down. I forgot, trying to bring too much down at one time. But so acknowledge or commemorate accurate cultural historical perspectives. Address one or more systemic inequities to provide disadvantaged and marginalized populations with the skills to disrupt bias. Develop or launch programs that support training and education designed to eliminate racial, religious, cultural, and other intergroup tensions in one of the following areas. Of course, those are the areas covered under the Human Rights Ordinance, and those are the characteristics that are covered under the Human Rights Ordinance. Implement educational public forums that support one of the more broad topics included within the rubric of human rights, and then again in those areas. Create programs or initiatives that reduce disparities between communities. That's strategic plan. Launch programs or initiatives that address issues of structural or systemic inequities. That's strategic plan. So 1, 2. So 1 and 2 are strategic plan. 3 and 4 are from the Human Rights Ordinance. And then 5 and 6 are back to the strategic plan. So that's where those things are coming from. The project eligibility criteria, the project must be new. The project must take place in Iowa City. And the project duration must be from July 1st through June 20th, 2026. And the date on that is not flexible at all. The project must be new. I think that's generally been the theme of the grant. There had been a few exceptions if somebody had previously wanted the grant cycle before. And then the project must take place in Iowa City is another criteria that needs to really be met when folks are applying. I understand that a lot of businesses or organizations may do a lot of work in Iowa City, but at the end of the day, these are Iowa City funds.
Yes.
And so that really needs to be met.
So one of the clarification, it can be repeat organization as long as the project is new.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my one
Yes.
kind of thing that I think maybe could somehow, some way, if we could define new
New project.
projects, because, well, and Wright House of Fashion is an example,
Yes.
right? They have their fashion show,
Yes.
which is a project. Now, they do that fashion show again the next year. Is that a different project? Is that a new project, or is it the same? I think that's where sometimes we
Well, we had the same
there's some
kind of thing.
ambiguity
there.
The same kind of thing with houses into homes.
Right.
They were going to
But
do silverware. Previously, they did something else.
Well, their mission is the same. It depends on what the project, because Houses to Home, they were, one of the project was the Youth Academy. That's a new project.
Right.
The other one was, you could say, no youth, sleeping on the floor. That's a different project. So their mission can be the same, but it will be depend on what is the project they targeting. Because House of Fashion, yes, their mission, they do all those fashion show, but what is the target project will be. So that's what I'm saying. It could be a repeated organization, but the project that they're presenting,
right, yeah.
because I know
But I'm saying even if the project is similar, right?
It could be similar, but what is
And
it?
I don't know if that's something that we need to outline
No.
here. It just is it's a point that I know we've had discussion around before when we've evaluated those. And if we're looking at revamping this, just wanted to throw that out there in case anyone had any solution to that, or if it just is something that we take into account when we evaluate them.
I think we're gonna have to, that'll be different, because I know, they do the fashion technology or School of Design project. So I don't know.
So-
Yeah, I think they're not existing before. I think the intent has always been so that you're not continually giving money to the same organization for the same project
Yes.
every year. So I
Yeah.
think that's where that has come from.
So I don't know if this actually directly answers your question, Doug, but when I was reading through this, I think actually maybe helping people understand what we see as a project might be really beneficial, because I think that might be very easily misunderstood. Stephanie, I'm not sure if there's already like a definition within the city of like, here's what is a project, or if we would need to, or I'm sure you would have actually really wonderful language on this, because even in our last grant cycle, I know there was some confusion there. We got full operational budgets for entire organizations. So I think maybe that clarity is really important. And I think in doing so, it might be evident that we're saying that the specific piece of work, we want it to be a new effort. We want it to be contributing something beneficial to our community along these lines. And so that might help us get the kind of clarity that you're discussing as well.
Yeah.
There might be a way to just link people to what's been approved in the past.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
like here for the past 4 years, here are examples of what the commission has.
Great.
Yeah, because I know we have had repeated organization asking what seems like the same thing. They ask for, the smart board, and then they ask for computers, and then it connected to the smart board, and so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know this is probably like kind of tedious, but it helps me to better understand, what you're wanting out of this grant cycle. So moving on, if there's nothing else under the,
I was just going to add, as we increase our fluency about this, we'll be much more equipped to train people to complete the grant. Those training events, I think the people appreciate that.
Stephanie, I have a question, please. Like, when we did review the grants, the applications, you haven't provided us with a previously granted organization that were on the list before. So if I'm a new commissioner, were there?
Yeah, it might have been one that you had to sit out possibly due to a conflict of interest, but we've had If I heard your question correctly, it was, have we had the list of those that had received grants previously when we're approving the new grants?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've had those lists the last 2 cycles at least.
Yeah, and it's on the application.
Yep. So I think there's the box that they have to check, Stephanie, is that right?
Yeah, if they've
Yeah.
received funding from the city. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not. I don't think I
I'm
am.
trying to remember if I missed on anything or not. That's okay.
So are you talking about when we're reviewing the grant?
Yes.
We do get the list of organizations that got last year and previously.
Previous years.
Yeah, so we do get them. We get the list in the email that
Yeah.
tells us all those organizations that have gotten it previous.
So you will not deny the applications before it gets to us if you see that they already got multiple times or
No,
no one?
she doesn't deny the application.
Okay.
We, people that are
We
reviewing
have to
them,
review
we,
what was
we don't
granted
deny
in
it,
the
but
past.
we take that into consideration if they have gotten it before.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And this year, the city is requiring all board and commissions that do grants to, like, I'm physically supposed to, put stuff in your hands so that you'll know.
Okay, sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So ineligible expenses, operational cost, indirect or overhead costs, loans, deficits, or debt reduction, endowments,
That's helpful.
scholarships, fundraising events, consultant fees or professional services, reimbursement for items in a completed project or items already purchased, and then events benefiting only members of the requesting organization, such as a gala or social, but not, for the community.
Stephanie, before you go on, I was curious, would it be appropriate for us to maybe provide a bit of an explanation of what is meant by operational costs? Because I know, too, that was something that we had to identify for ourselves. That was something that was, that has been confused in past applications. And so maybe, I know it's in the past, it had a brief description even, and that seemed to not even be enough. So is there maybe a small way that we could clarify what?
Yeah, we
what
can
mean by
just
that?
use whatever we used before
Okay.
and just put it like in parentheses
parentheses.
after
Yeah.
that. Yep.
And
That'd be
then
helpful.
the one other one I was wondering about, the other one that gets a little bit murky, I think even on the reviewing end, are the consultant fees, especially if it's a special project that's new and beginning. It can be difficult, I think, to answer that question. It can also be really difficult to review that question. So if there's any clarification that you can offer us or that we want to give ourselves on what that means for us, I think that could help us save a lot of time when we go to review the grants, but also
Sure.
save them time when they're authoring them.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I think one specific part of that is consultant fees or professional services. So if the grant is for an educational event and they're bringing in a guest speaker, are those professional services?
I would
right?
say yes.
And so maybe
Yeah.
calling that out
Yes.
Okay.
specifically, because we do see quite a bit of that,
Yeah,
right?
we do.
Guest artists, guest speakers, things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Sorry, I was writing that down and forgot. So applicant eligibility, the organization must be physically located in Iowa City. Applicants awarded may not be governments, public schools, private or charter schools, colleges, universities, nor can funds awarded be used by or to benefit these entities. Applications, so this is one change. Applicants cannot be for-profit businesses. Before, it didn't matter.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I know there's been some correspondence about the organizations with annual budgets, and so that's something that you'll need to decide where you want to, what, if you want to put a maximum, if you do, what you want it to be. I did, I can't say that this number was arrived at, I was kind of looking around at other communities that offer similar things, and that was kind of their cap. But I did give you a handout that shows you the budgets for the folks who applied last year, the annual budgets. And so you can see that a few of them would rule them out from applying. So, 2 may be too low. But the
Yeah.
question is, is there no, limit to what a organization's budget could be
Yeah.
to get these? But,
And yeah, when we got to this item, I was going to draw your attention, if you haven't seen them yet, there's the letter from Escucha Mi Voz and the email from Community Crisis expressing their concern about several things, but specifically this budget restriction. And this was one thing when I was reviewing this, kind of looking at too, like, who does this eliminate? Like, what would the impact of this be? So thank you, Stephanie, for providing this handout. Looks like the majority of at least last year's applicants would still be eligible, with a couple exceptions.
I mean, I think it may be fair to consider upping it a bit. I guess my concern was just if the council is trying to be, generally speaking, and this is not true for everything, but sometimes some of the folks who apply for you get funding from other parts of the city government, and those sometimes, but not always, can be the folks with the larger budgets.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so even if you wanted to do 5, 3.5, I mean, 2 is just kind of a starting point. But, as you can see, if you took it even up to 3 or 3.5, it would allow most of the folks who applied last year to still be eligible. But you can also see from this spreadsheet the differences in the budgets of these organizations. I mean, some, have little to none.
Mm-hmm. And when I first saw this, I thought, "Oh, that's a great thing." Like, we want to encourage those smaller groups, right? And a lot of times we don't know what what the size is, and that organization has an $11 million budget. They don't need our $10,000 or whatever. But reading through the email here from Community Crisis, it was something that I hadn't considered. There, it's the the third paragraph down. While their budget is more than 11 million, it's large compared to many organizations. A lot of those funds are restricted to particular services.
Yep.
So even though their budget might be 11 million, some of that is probably from other grants that are restricted to certain things, or, for whatever reason might be restricted to certain things. So they might not necessarily reflect their operating budget for new projects. So I just wanted to throw that out there because that was something that, I hadn't thought of when I first saw this new criteria.
From managing nonprofit, I'm very aware of that. You can see organization. I'll give you an example of, Systems Unlimited. They are a $30 million organization. But I can tell you, in that $30 million, they probably more than that now. When I was at Systems Unlimited, it was about $30 million organization. And you can look into that $30 million, probably 75% of that are Medicaid funding. And those are restricted, services. In that Medicaid services, they do cost reports that they cannot even make 2.5% profit on those services. And most of the time, they are 17 months behind in making that profit. So they are completely programmed that you can't even cut a penny to put away other services. So limiting organizations based on that funding, you will cut that organization out. So it's going to be, MYEP is another one. Our organization was about $10 million, but most of that was Medicaid services. And that Medicaid service was fee for service, which it's control, and you have to do cost reports to report it out. So it had nothing to do with the size of the budget. Everything was controlled. You cannot even allocate any of that for any other services. So it's just something to keep in mind, because as I'm looking at it, you will cut community out, and most of their services are line by line, cost report. So that's something we're gonna have to think about.
So
But
we
even
cannot,
if we raise the cap to 3 million, community is the only organization then from this list that would be out.
yeah, it's just hard to draw the line, like, again, we cannot consider only 11 million or 30 million or something
Right,
like this,
right.
So either we look into the program itself and how much it's getting from that specific organization, and if it's underfunded or if it can be funded from the Human Rights Commission. Like take specific, I'm not sure.
So-
But there, it's hard to draw the line.
I wonder, would it be worthwhile for us to say our intention? So our intention is that our funds can reach organizations doing critical work on racial equity and social justice in our community. We hope that that can reach organizations that are both capable of doing that and also have the ability to maintain themselves in doing so. We've said new projects, but we haven't said anything about sustainable projects. So I'm curious if I would actually propose actually fully removing the limit and simply saying that the annual budget of the requesting organization will be considered when grants are reviewed. And the reason I'm saying that is because I agree. I think it's going to be very difficult to draw the line somewhere, but we have agreed. We are already discussing it. The budget of the organization matters in our consideration. And so I think saying that in the application would be important to do. Without necessarily setting a ceiling and reducing the ability of some organizations to apply. I will add to that as well that I think we haven't even spoken about necessarily overhead that organizations have to pay, and to be an established organization, especially nonprofits, it's tough work. So that would be my proposal on that.
Chelsea, we would want to know what the budget is, though?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so it would be, we have asked that question in the past.
Yeah, it's on there.
It's on.
But I would advocate to make it required, if that's something that we're.
It is, but some
Okay.
people still answer it how they want to.
Yeah,
So they
that's
might
true.
just put the project budget when
Yeah.
that's not what we're asking
Yes.
for. But it is required, so,
Okay.
yeah.
And another thing that also, because many organizations, they have so many different department or program, and, you can have, they put the budget of the department that actually carries that project, not the entire organization. So the only way you can really get a better picture of the entire organization budget is by requesting the 990. So that's the only way, which is public record. So you can actually require organization to submit their past year's 990. So.
You're pretty smart.
So I just have a note to the annual budget question as part of the actual application when they're answering questions, but I'll revise this so that under applicant eligibility, it says organizations' annual budgets will be taken into consideration when.
I had one more thought on the eligibility criteria. And many of you might disagree with me on that, and I actually would welcome that, because I've gone back and forth on the first bullet point. I think we have had this historically in the grant application, that the organization must be physically located in Iowa City. And then regularly, we have actually funded projects that are done by organizations that are outside of Iowa City but are in Coralville and are serving Iowa City residents. And so I want to put out there that what if we just say what we mean, which is that the project must serve Iowa City residents primarily. And the reason being is that we live in a community where there are many different municipal actors that are serving community members in one place. And there's a lot of overlap. We bump elbows a lot, but we also coordinate a lot. And so I wonder if we could still be good stewards with Iowa City taxpayer funds by saying that it should primarily serve Iowa City residents, but if an organization that's maybe neighboring in Coralville or something like that, first of all, can we legally say that? And second of all, I'm curious what my fellow commissioners would think of that.
Would the city of Iowa City allow us to do that?
No.
I mean, it obviously probably wouldn't be like, that's a great idea. And then it comes into like how, for some organizations that data may be more readily obvious or more apparent, but I remember in the past one time we funded a project that I think it was for the 6th Judicial District.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I don't know how you quantify how many people they're actually helping in Iowa City. Yeah, I mean, I think the strong preference is for these organizations to be in Iowa City.
Iowa City.
I am just worried that, we had like 25 organization and application last time we reviewed the applications. Were they 25?
Yeah.
So imagine if we open the door for, organizations that are located in Coralville, but they're still serving here. So we might double or even triple, the amount of.
I think the problem is always coming in. We always hear, well, how much is Coralville putting in? Because even though all those organizations, they serve people everywhere. And I know last time, when we had an organization that, something was happening in Coralville, that's the question we were getting. How much is Coralville putting in? So it blends in.
Yeah.
But they want it to be physically
Yeah.
in Iowa City.
So points all taken, definitely. And also, I think the question isn't necessarily what Coralville taxpayers are providing to a service they're receiving, but more so what organizations who happen to be based in Coralville are doing for Iowa City residents. That was kind of the genesis for me of we have. So if we're saying this and that's important to us, then we should be sure to follow that. If an organization must be physically present in Iowa City, because otherwise we are stating one stipulation and then doing something else. And so we are excluding organizations in Coralville, and then some still apply, and we consider them. So I think
I totally agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
I think we
I
have
totally
to
agree with that.
Either have it and hold the line,
Yeah.
or recognize that we have made a decision based on who it serves in our community previously.
Yeah, but within this application, how many of them were located or they exist in Coralville, not Iowa City?
I think
basically
off the
one.
top of my head, obviously, there's the one I know of.
Yeah.
I think all those organizations are serving people from everywhere.
But the one physically located it's only one physically located in Coralville?
Yeah, and I think there's a difference if there's an event that would be consistent with the purpose of the commission that's occurring in North Liberty or Coralville, that maybe be asking for sponsorship at $250. I think that's different than
Yeah.
thousands of dollars.
That's what I was thinking.
Being given. So I do think there is a little difference. And usually when you give, funding to events that are occurring outside of Iowa City, it's because they're not events that are duplicated here in Iowa City. So they're unique. But
Could we say, instead of primarily serve Iowa City residents,
thank
is
you.
it speaking into, could we do it, because I see the opposite problem where these, where they're serving people out, like these organizations that are physically located inside Iowa City are serving residents outside of Iowa City. So could we change the language, remove primarily, but maybe say project must serve only Iowa City residents, so that we can, include those organizations physically located outside of Iowa City, but also stop the other way too.
That'd be hard to track. You kind of have to discriminate on those people that are outside of Iowa City. They can't participate in that project. So,
Harder to track.
Yeah.
I see the intention, though.
yeah, I see it. I think sometimes maybe we are overthinking it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just.
I mean, generally, it hasn't been, once this got clarified on the application, I don't see it as something that's continual each year. It's more the selection process where you see it come up. It's
Yeah.
not really in the applicants.
Okay.
It's not like you're getting a lot of applicants from Coralville, North Liberty, or Tiffin. It's the selections that are being made by the commission that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the conversation on it because I think it's helped us understand a clarity amongst ourselves too. So I'm okay with as is. I knew it might not. Yeah, thank you for the conversation.
Okay. So, and this is probably going to be part of the conversation too. Again, these are, so 100,000 has been allocated, which is going to be the same for this FY year that we're currently in, which is where these funds are from. So, I put 10,000 there with the thought that you could fund 10 different organizations. Right now, if you have 4 great applications that are all asking for 25,000, then you've just given out 100,000 to just 4 organizations. But obviously, that's up to you guys to decide. But that was the thought with putting a limit of 10,000 on it, because you could literally use up $100,000 in 4 applications if all of them ask for 25.
In the previous application, we had a thing that said, can you do it for less than what you're asking for? I don't know how often it got answered correct, yes, but I'm agreeing with you completely with this, Tim. We don't have much money to give away.
I like the 10,000 too.
I have reservations, but so bear with me. I know I've already had a lot of comments and feedback. I'm sorry, everybody. I worry that in our era where a lot of the pandemic-based funding that was unlocked for community organizations has dried up, it is no longer. Also, we have a lot of stipulations about you have to be able to make a whole project from scratch. Inflation is a thing. I think it's, it's not necessarily as terrible as some might say, but it is a factor. I know that what we would be doing in practice by setting 10,000 instead of 25,000 is that the projects we would be receiving would already be lesser and more contained than what we're used to seeing. So realistically, the impact that would have is the applications we will receive, they'll have a shorter time frame, they'll have less staff involved, they might have the ability to reach fewer students, for example. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we will be receiving applications that might be hitting a different level of impact, if you will. And if we want the ability to still have choice, we'll also trying to make sure that our funds reach impactful programs and a wide swath of the community, I would be comfortable reducing it to 20,000 maybe, but I think that 10,000 really starts to kind of limit what might be possible and feasible within even the kind of grant applications that we receive.
I think it's a
It's in the
breadth
letter, too.
versus depth issue, right? Is currently it's a depth, right? Where these are more robust projects that, really focus on one community maybe or one target area and are able to have that impact you said. Reducing the total maximum allowed then might allow us to fund more organizations that would reach more communities and more target, more diverse groups.
Yeah.
But they
in the
will be
community.
smaller projects.
But they would be
yeah.
smaller projects. So I think, I understand your point and I appreciate that. I think there's a trade-off. And maybe the answer is somewhere around 15 to 20, like you said. But other ideas?
Good conversation.
1250.
Yeah. And one of the thoughts that kind of came into the whole revision of this is funding more organizations and spreading the city funds out more, right? That it's not the same groups getting funds. Not saying that we were, but these were things that you were at the city council meeting with me when
Yeah.
we presented these. That these were some of the parts of that discussion.
Yes.
So.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I heard it that way, though, Doug. I think
Yeah.
I heard it more about, are we matching the funds that we've been given a say over with projects that can reach racial equity and social justice means, and making sure that is diversified, that is created. So the diversification was important, but I don't know if it was more about make sure that you reach more organizations each time that you do the grant approvals, just in my own understanding and conversations I had too. That was just my takeaway though, but I could have misunderstood.
I really like the idea of reaching more people. That's just me. I think when we create a project that, when we're talking about social justice and racial equity and reaching, idea of creating project that we can reach more people out there, I just like that better than funding one or two organizations with larger grant. And I think there's a place for that, maybe in some of the other city grant, like AIDS to Agency, where we're giving people $50,000 and $75,000 to really make an impact, or maybe on a CDBG, when we can give people $500,000 and to really make a big impact. But I always thought this grant was, can we really create some kind of great project, something that will benefit a group that hasn't been reached yet? Somebody's creating something, maybe they just need a startup, $10,000, $15,000 that they're not getting anywhere to really create something group. So I'm liking the idea of reducing that number to fund more organization. So I'm torn.
And we can revisit this, right, Stephanie? I mean, if we want to try 15 this year, then the next year we can
Or you can even
adjust.
do 20 and see if that significantly makes a difference if you want to keep it closer to the 25,
Yeah.
And then if you feel next year, you feel like 15 is, and I will say from,
25.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, Stephanie, didn't mean to cut you off. With 25, if we really we're funding organization to the max, we're funding 4. I was hoping City Council would give us more, but we're funding 4.
I agree that it should be lower than 25, yeah.
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 So I'm thinking maybe, I was thinking 12,500. If we're funding to the max, we fund.
I'm not sure if
10.
I'm not sure if what I'm gonna say it's possible, but what if we restrict or with a clause? If you have applied before and you got a grant, we will not grant you more than $10,000.
That's in there.
Oh, it's a-
It's the next bullet.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
think-
understand the next bullet. This is why I'm asking. Yeah.
And I actually took the question out, I mean, if it could be done with less money, because I guess I don't kind of understand that question.
Yeah.
And I can say that, not a lot, but there have been some organizations who have gotten $25,000 and they've had to give it back at the end of the year because they weren't,
Yeah.
things didn't pan out the way they thought.
I know. We
And
have that
so,
couple of
they're paying the city back $12,000.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of some of the rationale too. But so are there any objections to just lowering it to 20 for this year?
No objection to that.
Everybody okay with that?
Sounds good to me.
Let's start with that.
Okay. I
Could
will
we
get that
also then
updated.
add in the presentations we give to potential applicants, like an average? So like on average, we tend to grant applications of between $8,000 and $12,000 or like whatever it is to really make it realistic as well. So letting people know that like it would be exceptional to be fully granted at the top end of that
Right.
amount of money.
Yeah, it's that idea. I worked for a company once that didn't have budgets because they said if you have a budget, you spend to that budget.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, like if the budget is 20,000, you're going to spend 20,000 whether you need to or not.
Yeah.
Right, and so, yeah, I like kind of adding that into some of our materials. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be on the application or that would be just like in the advertisements?
I mean, what would you recommend? Would it be?
Can you rephrase it again for me?
Well, I'm giving an example because I don't actually know the true
That's
average.
fine, that's fine,
But
okay.
like, for example, if our average was between, most grants that are funded, most applications that are funded are between $8,000 and $12,000, please keep that in mind because it would be exceptional to be fully granted at a level of $20,000.
And you were thinking about doing that at the training?
That was my suggestion, and
Yeah.
then Stephanie asked me, do you also include that in the application?
Ah,
And I
yes.
said, I don't know, that's a great question.
My
No,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
my
up to you.
experience is that if you put the maximum of 20, most people are applying for 20. And most of the application we got, people were applying for the max.
We had like 5 or 6 last year out of like 25, right, that applied for the max. It wasn't, I don't have the form in front of me,
Yeah, I
but
don't either.
it's usually like a top tier. It's not necessarily most of the applications.
I think like people are trying to fit things in there to get to the number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true, but I think it, I mean, we're going to get back a mix of things anyway. It's just a matter of can we be as clear as possible? So
I have that noted. And so then I think you, as a group, are just getting ready to talk about if a past recipient of this grant within the last 2 years, the maximum you can request. And 25 wasn't based on anything. It's more to, if you listen to the folks or the community members who were frustrated last year with the decision, they felt like you guys just funded them, and so this is more to allow opportunity for others to show you, look, I have a great project too.
Yeah.
Like I know they're phenomenal and they do these amazing things, but that's not to say we can't do that either. If but 2,500 literally came from I just put that there. So it's whatever obviously you guys think is appropriate for that.
Yeah.
And if you
I-
want to put that, I mean, you can also choose not to put any type of restriction on it, but
I wholeheartedly support the idea behind this. I think it's a great. I like putting that in there, saying if you got money last year or the year before, this is the max.
So you're talking about the organization name or the project?
The organization.
yeah.
Okay.
Because you can have organizations that they're going to be able to give you a great project every year.
Every
Yes.
year.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
they will.
and write it great, and it's going to look good, but that doesn't mean that somebody else's grant
Yeah.
project or proposal,
Yeah.
that maybe they just can't say it in a way that it sounds as neat. But but just giving a little more wiggle room for folks who may not be as learned on how to kind of dance off a paper when
Oh,
people
I
are
said professional grant
evaluating.
writer.
Right.
Yeah.
Now everybody have a grant writer in their stuff.
quickly before we move on, because facts matter, Roger, I could only find 2023's grants at the moment when I looked for it. 11 of our 20 applicants that year were for grants over $20,000. We funded 1 of those 20 for over $20,000. So I think it is reasonable to say, like, we just don't do that, like, and making that clear in communication too.
I didn't say we funded them.
No, yeah. But we have the applications that you said the majority of our applications were for almost $25,000. So you were actually more spot on than I was in your memory of 2023.
Yeah. I said that, yeah, most people apply for that. I didn't say we funded them, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's just deciding one, do you want a restriction that kind of lowers the threshold of what an organization can receive if they just got funded in the previous 2 years?
I think it's a great idea.
I like it.
Consensus, everyone's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so then
Do we
what
like
is
the
the
amount?
appropriate amount that
Yeah.
you feel an organization, because 2,500 probably is low. It's probably discouraging at that point. But,
Well,
but it's also, some of these organizations, if they're doing this great stuff, you would hope that they could somehow project that into their, operations too, so that it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Well, maybe it'd be discouraging for them to take a year or two off. Then come back a year or two later with another great project.
I don't know, 2,500 may be low, especially if the top is 20.
Yeah. My thought was, the 2,500 was 25% of the 10,000. So what if the cap is now 20,000?
Maybe 5.
Maybe 5?
Everybody okay with that?
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay. So, and this kind of is more of the agreement that we have the organization sign if you select and the city council approves funding for a particular project. But, so and it also talks about your process. The Iowa City Human Rights Commission will review all applications and make funding recommendations to the council no later than, and I'll have to fill that date in by looking at council meeting dates. And then, of course, funding would be awarded by June 1st. So I do know that date for certain, because we have to get it out the door before June 30th. Any questions on that? Okay, grantee responsibilities, and you had kind of discussed this earlier when you first began, but grants are issued on a reimbursement basis after proper documentation is received. But grantees may request exceptions to this funding process, but approval or denial of such requests is at the city's discretion. And a complete W-9 is required prior to any payment. So I figure I'll just stop there and let you guys talk about that.
I appreciate that exception, and particularly because I hadn't paid attention to it until I read the letter from Mivas, Iowa, that I didn't know it was reimbursement. The assumption would be then that somebody would use a credit card and they would bring in the bills and say, see, we paid this. They'd have document. That's how it works.
Well, I mean, currently, no, it's the opposite. Currently, they get a check by June 1st or
Full
soon
amount.
thereafter for the
So this
amount.
reimbursement basis is new.
Correct.
Thank you.
But most of the city's grants are reimbursement basis.
I know some of them are, I can't say, but I know you have more experience with a lot more than I have.
All the
Okay.
grant that I've dealt with the city was reimbursement. So
Okay.
that's what I was surprised that this
Yeah.
one, they got a check in the front. So
The
at least that
reimbursement
was
makes a lot
been
of
my
sense to me.
experience with most of the.
Yeah.
The other thing this does with reimbursement, it saves groups from falling into the trap of, we got to pay the money back that they already gave us.
Right. And, I mean, it's flexible, so say an organization says, hey, we really need the money to get this going. Okay, let's say they get 20,000, maybe we give them then 10 of that, and then they can show us that they're making progress in the
Yes.
right way. And again, when I talk about these scenarios, it's like literally like maybe one or two organizations, but
Yeah.
some folks, you just 25,000 and it's
Yeah.
So it's just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like the
Sounds like
reimbursement. We can always give an exception.
And you can always change it, so it's not an absolute. An organization can certainly just write a letter that says, hey, this is not going to work for us, and tell us why. And obviously, we would
Yes.
want to work with them, to have the best outcome for them to be successful with the project. So I don't see it as punitive.
Yeah. I appreciate too that it's at the city's discretion as also the primary source of the funds. So in the city management approach, I think is a great way of responding to that. So thank you, Stephanie.
So we like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and if awarded, grantees will be required to submit a quarterly report. Currently, they just report in November and April, and then the final report is due by July 31st. And so having them provide, without exhausting them, just at least 3 reports, with the 4th one being the final, may also be able to help folks who maybe are having trouble with the project or having, the inability to kind of use the finances in the way that they thought. And when that happens, if they wanted to come back and kind of revise something and say like, hey, we thought it would work like ABC, but now it's working like, FHG, then I think there would be an opportunity to give them wiggle room to be successful. But
So currently they're just doing 2 reports.
yeah, because the final report is more of their transactions,
Yes.
and they're available, but I don't usually put them in a package just because they're receipts,
Yep.
So they have credit card numbers and, well, not the full numbers, but you know what I mean. It's just a lot of information to just have sitting out there.
So now we're gonna require to do.
So what would you would get, they would just submit one for every quarter, but the 4th quarter would be the final. So
Yeah.
what you have in your packet tonight, you would get
At the 4th quarter.
3 of those, and then
Yeah.
the office would get the final report, because that's usually how it goes.
Yep.
But unless you, do you think that's too burdensome for the organizations that you fund, or? And it will affect some differently, because for some, like, you're only going to get one report because
It's a
their
one-time.
event
They
may
spend the
just
money,
be
it's
a
done.
one and
Yeah.
done. And
Right.
so there's nothing else for them to submit. So it would only be for those organizations whose project is literally going the full course of the year, and some of them don't.
They decide how big the report is? Or do they have a form to fill out?
Well, I mean, we can do a form. Climate
not asking.
Action actually has a template that they require, so, I
I'm
mean,
just
if
back
that's
to kind of
something,
Kelsey's culture of their volunteers maybe, and how much are we expecting of them? It sounds like it's reasonable.
yeah, I mean, I mean, we can do a template. It does appear, though, from the ones you have in your packet tonight, that there is a certain excitement for these organizations
Good.
in presenting the information to you. It looks like they took time and formatted it
Yep.
to really kind of highlight what they were doing, so
Okay.
I think maybe they like to kind of take that project without having a template, but we can certainly go either way.
Well, it sounds like it's working. Shut me up.
Okay. But here's the part that you had talked about. Document the project through video or photo submitted with invoices and final report to show progress and outcomes. So based upon your discussion about some organizations, this might be more work for them. We can just document the project through things like videos or photos, and that way, if they're able to, great. If they can't, then they can give the standard report like you have in your packet. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. So I think we're getting towards.
We are.
Yeah, so those are terms the city's going to require. Grantee does not expend all the, and properly document all funds awarded. Access funds will revert back to the city, and that's just the due date. So the application, I'm not sure we need to spend a lot of time on it. I don't believe that I took away, for the organizational information, I know the one thing I did take away is the website, because not everybody has a website, but if you want me to put that back, I can do that, but, does anybody want me to put that? It's not a big deal either way, but I know that's what I took out of that first half.
I think that's fine.
And then how many years has the organization been in operation? That just gives you some background. And then, of course, the contact information standard. The project proposal, this is what you had went over at the beginning. So it just asks, how does this project, and then it goes over all the bullet points of the eligibility requirements of the proposal or project. This is the same question about, does the project include any collaborations? Will the project continue after the grant funding ends? If yes, what measures will be taken? And then funding amount, what is the organization's annual budget, amount of funding requested for project? Please list all other funding sources, including the City of Iowa City, for this project. And then within the past 3 years, has the organization received any funding from the City of Iowa City? If so, for what and how much? Complete the table below to itemize your budget. That should be the same from last year. The only difference here is we added this, I certify under the penalty of perjury. I think last time it was just an electronic signature.
Yeah.
So I know some of you have had concerns about maybe things they know about a particular organization. And so if somebody does present something, I mean, at least they're aware that they're saying that what I'm presenting is truthful. So, and then just, contact. And so on the last page of your packet is the rubric. So this is literally a cut and paste of the climate action one that they used for their scoring criteria, except the wording or text was changed to match and align with yours. But it gives a good overview of how the process works for people who may not know. And then it also says that, and this has kind of come up before too, it says that just because you score high, once we come together and discuss things, that high score doesn't guarantee that you're going to get funded. So it kind of throws that out there for folks. And then, so this is just a grading criteria where, you know, it would equal 100.
It's so much more accessible than what we're
And the
using before.
they'll get this too. They'll have access to this.
Yeah, we
Yes,
can put it out there as part of when we're advertising it.
I
Like,
like
this is
that.
the criteria that will be used to evaluate your application.
I like that.
One question I have is, so we still have the criteria about project outcomes being specific, but we no longer have that whole section of the application that asked about outcomes. We do still ask about how does this project do the bullet points, and about collaboration, but not really like, tell us about what you hope will be different because this project has happened. So if we're gonna.
What does success look like? Or it was, I
Or-
forget how it was worded, but
Yeah,
something like
and
that.
I don't think, like, I think it's actually really good to think about reworking that section because that was the one where if we got kind of AI-generated text, it was on that answer. And so I think trying to make it more accessible would be really important, but if we're gonna still score on it, we should ask about it, about what, really, what are your project outcomes? What kind of positive influence will that have on the community or those who receive the programs or are a part of it? Something to that effect.
Yeah, I can just go back and grab
Okay.
that question.
Awesome. Thank you.
No
Stephanie.
problem. So I think that.
The only other thing, very nitpicky, is in the second sentence there where it says members of this team score applications individually. Can we replace that with commissioners score the
Yeah,
application?
yep, you know how that changed is because in climate action, staff gives recommendations too on this stuff, but, okay, but yeah, I'll get that updated.
Okay.
But my goal is to, we'll do a motion, to do the changes, edits, revisions, and if that passes, then, my goal is to hit the ground running here starting next week and getting it up and running in this electronic software format.
Okay. So are you looking for approval tonight?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just,
All right. Any further discussion?
I think that was good work.
I just have a question in the grant scoring criteria. Not the last one, the one before. It says applicants has demonstrated an ability to follow through on this project or has a history of implementing similar activities. So is the history, is it something expected for them to fill like within the application? How can we measure that if they have a history of doing the same project or not? Like something just we know about, if they've been granted here before, or if it's something that's going to be listed and evaluated.
I'm not sure if I followed your question. Would you mind
It
repeating?
says here, that
Yep.
the applicants has demonstrated an ability to follow through on this project or has a history of implementing similar activities. So the history, is this a history that we know of based on if we granted them before or not?
It should be in the application. That's what we're
I-
evaluating, right? The
I know
application.
other commission use this as that they have received grant before and they have implemented successfully, so,
But it needs to be in the application because it's not in my memory.
not in your memory, but we have
Well,
pass.
I can't rank this based on my memory. I need to see it written someplace.
We have pass, we get a list of pass
Yeah.
members.
Yeah,
So we have list of pass recipient.
But I do hear the point, which is that,
Yeah.
like, we either
Yes.
have to rely on our knowledge of the institutions to answer this question, unless they share to us,
Yeah.
we've done work like this in the past. And so, but I actually wonder how much, like, I think it's wonderful to share the scoring criteria and just really make it evident and say, like, we're asking these questions, we will be creating, a score based on these criteria. Please make sure that as much as you can, like, address these things that we'll be looking for as well. And so I don't know if we add a new question that says, tell us how you've done a project like this in the past, if you have, or your ability to do that project, or if we just direct to criteria and say, please make sure that we see how you're capable and all of these other criteria pieces too.
Just to be fair, because even if we have scored somebody before and they got granted, and the other ones did not, and I'm going to give this one 10, and then that one I'm clueless about. You know, if we haven't asked them clearly that we want you to state this,
True.
you know, it will not be a fair, you know, scoring.
Or on our side, we have to, if an applicant have received or implemented grant successfully, we have to have a way of marking on the
Yes.
application.
We could just send it, applicant has demonstrated an ability to follow through on this project, and then
Yeah.
add a question back on the application that asks about, you know, their ability to, like, what specific, I don't know, benchmarks or something can you provide that show us that you'll be able to successfully implement this project without even going into, so basically taking out the, or has history.
Yes.
Yeah, just take it out,
I like
because we get the list anyway of.
Right.
Because if there are new applicants who has no history at all, you know, we don't want to cross
Yeah.
them off the list because that
Right,
makes
or we don't
or
want
score them
to bias
Yes.
towards organizations that, yeah,
Yeah.
right. And we give
has
the
a
new,
legacy
the new
before, I think,
organizations an equal shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to touch base on the third point in the criteria where it says project will have a continuing impactful benefit to the community. I think it's going to be very beneficial to understand if the organization or the applicant has key performance indicators or ways of measuring how much impact they actually had on the community.
So I'm going to translate that into nonprofit language, M&E, monitoring and evaluation. And so you're suggesting, like, is that something that we are asking of them in the reporting after the project, or
Something that we could possibly add into the application to see if they have anything.
like how will they measure?
Exactly, yeah.
I think there might have been a question similar to that in the
Yeah,
form
we had one
last
before.
year.
How will you measure the success
So
of
I can go back and add that.
Yes.
Yeah, there was
Yes.
something that, and I didn't bring it down,
Yeah, we had a
an
question like
old
that.
application.
Kind of like how's the success look like or something like that?
Yeah, right, yeah. And that goes to Kelsey's point earlier
Yeah.
about the project outcomes criteria. But I also think in the project proposal section of the application, question 5 says, will the project continue after the grant funding ends?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of correlates to that continuing impact piece in the rubric, if that helps. And it also, I think when you look at the applications, there are some that you can see are just kind of maybe a one-time thing, and some that, wow, this is going to establish something that can really have some legs and, have a continuing impact.
Yeah.
And so this, allows us to measure that and differentiate those.
I have no edits on anything. I have a question about the form itself. Do we have any character limits that we want to set for each of the text sections? Meaning, it's difficult for us when the answers become very lengthy. It's also very difficult, I think, for applicants when they feel that they need to, we really do want them to fully answer the question, but I am thinking about how can we make sure that the text is meaningful as well. So would maybe a character limit on the digital box
Yeah.
be
Or could
something
we
we
do a
could implement?
suggestion of like where it should fall between, rather than specifically limiting them to like, because if their project goes more with meaningful language,
Yeah.
I don't see a point where we would have to follow up and ask them questions about it and just let them explain in the first place.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I wonder how much people read the please keep it within a certain character unless it's like restricted to that. But I just throwing it out there because really the problem I'm trying to get at is AI produced language
Yes.
that doesn't tell us anything meaningful and impactful about the project proposed.
So if you want, I can check with other city departments that staff boards and commissions that do review grants and get those numbers and then do an average of the lowest to the highest for this grant cycle. I don't know how else, I don't know like what,
Yeah.
how we would determine what a proper amount of,
I think that's a good point. I don't want you to have to do that kind of
oh,
work,
that's
Stephanie,
not, no,
so
that's not a
don't-
big deal at all. I'm just trying to figure out like, I don't know how I would get that information. And
Right.
so maybe just going off of the average of what other grant limitations they have for their grants. Because I don't know, I believe all the
Okay.
grants are submitted online. I don't think there's any that wouldn't be.
Okay,
And so I could check to see what limitations they have and then just go with the average of the, so what I would follow the approach that's been mentioned, so it would be between like, this is a bad example, but like 500 words to 1,000. So
Yeah.
it could be a bare minimum, but no more than a
Yeah.
max.
yeah. I think too, like that would be wonderful, in
Okay.
my opinion, if you'd be willing to do that. But also, like if it's not meaningful, if it doesn't result, like if you're asking and there's nothing meaningful there, like let's not worry about it, and we'll be able to tell when they're in front of us. So, thank you.
But yeah, but it probably does create a better balance between the applicants, because then some people may seem kind of short and other people may seem kind of long, and there may be decisions based upon that too, that are unintentional.
Okay.
So I don't think it would be a problem.
Okay. Thanks, Stephanie.
Right.
So
Do we have a motion to
Good work.
approve the Racial Equity and Social Justice Grant for fiscal year 2025 as discussed and edited tonight?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Lusala, seconded by Kudura to approve the RESJ grant as edited tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Stephanie.
no, thank you. I appreciate
Thank you.
the opportunity.
Fantastic work. All right. Item number 10 on the agenda is our December meeting date. All right. And our resident retiree has already said what date we're having it, right?
Well, no, it's more a matter of, because of what I retired from, I know what the other Tuesdays are.
Oh, yeah.
Boom.
All right. Any suggestions? So December 17th was the date that you said, right?
I said that, but it didn't sound like we could get perfect attendance on that day.
Okay, all right.
And I'm
yeah.
thinking that Monday or Tuesdays are the deal for us, but I'd rather not, meet. I don't want to meet on Wednesdays if I can help it.
Okay.
And Roger, you wouldn't be able to join virtually on that 17th? You'd be out? Just asking.
The 17th,
Yeah.
I'll still be flying.
Okay.
And joining virtually could be problematic.
Problematic.
Are
is-
you,
yeah.
would it be very early in the morning for you? Or you don't have to answer. It's okay. This is going too
the
far.
Technology could be.
I will say the 17th is tricky for me as well.
Okay.
So, do we want to keep it in that week? Thursday, the 19th?
Do we have a singular agenda? Is this it?
More or less, I believe so. Stephanie, was there anything else besides the strategic plan that we would need to?
No, the only thing Jennifer had discussed with me is it had been suggested to like, kind of have like a orientation for the new members at that December meeting, so that may be the only other item. But I don't know if you want to do that if you're doing the strategic plan on that, like, so, but I think that was the only other thing that I was aware of.
Yeah.
Like kind of a meet and greet, I guess, with the new members, but yeah, but other than that, I wouldn't have, it wouldn't be much approval of the minutes and stuff, and
Okay.
I think I should be able to find space anywhere from the 9th, through the 20th. Oh, but Roger, when do you leave?
I leave actually this 15.
So it would be preferable to do the 9th through the 13th.
Do we want to do the week of the 9th then, even though it's only 2 weeks away?
I am out of town then.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. We don't have to
All right.
schedule around personal schedules at
Yeah,
all.
right.
I just
Who do we
wanted-
like better, Roger or Kelsey? And-
Well, I think Kelsey will be here because she missed the group, so it's important for her to participate.
Well, I would love to participate if I can, but I also propose we talk about it in January. So I'm pretty flexible. It might be very difficult to square around peg and schedules.
So what was the other dates? The 17 you're talking about?
I
Does
just-
the 17 work for everybody?
Not for me.
It doesn't work for you?
No, I would no. No.
Okay.
So try the 10th.
The
It's a
10th.
Tuesday.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I just threw out was the 10th. It's the Tuesday before that.
And the 10th works for everybody?
Not
No?
Kelsey.
We also don't know about Dr. Liz
Right.
or John V, but I don't. Yeah, but I think it.
I
We're
think if
always
the
going to miss
school-
someone.
I think if the school year's there, I think it's just if she's available. But I know this week, I think she was just gone because of school. Well, not because of school, but because she was able to leave the area for the week.
Well, what was the actual meeting dates in December?
The 24th.
The
It would be the
24th, I
24th.
think.
Well, I'm not helpful then.
I appreciate the effort.
You're out that whole week, Kelsey?
I am.
Okay.
I know, yeah. There is a chance that I could join you virtually.
Okay.
Well, then you can just do January 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Does January 7th work for everybody?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but
I'm out of town on the 7th for work.
Whatever date you guys choose, I will try to do virtual. You have a 7-hour difference, which I can always Zoom.
what if, I mean, like, I think let's set the date, I think if, especially if that meets quorum, right? So if December 10th meets quorum, that's totally fine. I'll do my best to join you all virtually and then able to move forward. I mean, I think I heard that it's felt important to discuss the strategic plan still in December rather than moving it to our January meeting, so,
But we don't necessarily have to approve it. We were going to discuss in December, is this something we want to wait for the new term or, we left that open. so-
Because you only have one person really starting in January,
Right.
because we have the majority. And that one person, it's not a completely new commissioner. It's somebody that's been working on a different commission. We can just, so they kind of have the idea of how format works.
okay. Go with where you have quorum.
Right, December 10th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
December 10th?
And we'll probably be in the room next door, just so you know that,
Okay.
if it's available, which hopefully it is. But if not, I will find a space. But I know City Council meets that night, so this room will be taken, so I don't think they're going to let y'all meet in here, but I'll find a place.
And that room does still have virtual?
Oh, yeah. It's a little different setup because it's tighter, but yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
December 10th is also the UI.
Oh, it's International Human Rights Day.
It is.
Yes, UICHC 25th in-person event at the old Capitol.
Would the time, I mean, is the time you meet an issue? Like, I don't know what people's schedules are like if somebody could meet sooner or, because if it conflicts with something else.
Yeah, so I don't know how many people will be attending that.
Yeah. Well, do we want to move it to like Thursday that week, the 12th?
Works for me, can make all that work. So
Does Thursday work, the 12th?
The 12th.
Should we-
I will make it work, yeah.
Okay. All right. I think Mark said as long as it wasn't Wednesday, he was okay.
The 12th?
The 12th.
HRC meeting.
Okay. All right. So Stephanie, we've decided on the 12th,
Okay,
that Thursday.
okay.
Okay.
You should be able to. get in this
Still at
space.
5:30.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the space should be available if it's not out. Well, I'll send out an invite, and that way you'll know if I confirm that it will be here, but I don't,
All right.
Yeah. And a Zoom link for Kelsey. We'll try.
I think I can be there.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then that brings us to Agenda 11, brief announcements by staff and commission members. Commissioners shall not engage in discussion with one another concerning said announcements. Stephanie, we'll start with you.
the only announcement I have is that they're doing a third floor remodel, and so the office will be in Robert A. Lee Recreational Center in Meeting Room A, where you did your strategic planning. So that will be our office for about projects never go, they
Yeah.
say in like 3 months, but I don't know, but that's what we'll be. So it should be an interesting experience.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
At least you have a new office.
Yeah.
Oh, shiny new remodel office.
But that's all I have.
Okay, great, thanks. Roger, do you want to start?
I don't really have a lot. I just want to, those of you that are having family time, as I call it, enjoy family time. Just remember that. Those you sitting with, enjoy time. I always said, blood make us related, love make us family. So remember that.
It's nice.
I don't have wasn't much as well, except everybody have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy your holidays.
I'll just share some exciting news I got today, which is that for the last couple of years, my organization and also the Peace in Our Cities network that I work with, which is a grouping of over 50 member organizations and cities from around the world that are all focused on reducing violence in their community by 50% by 2030. One of our members was actually successful in launching an Office of Violence Prevention. So this is a coordinated violence reduction unit in their community. So this will be based in Bristol in the United Kingdom. And I'm so thrilled because we've been working really closely with them for a couple of years now, and their initiative, but supporting them in that. So I just got that news today, so it's
Wow.
very exciting to share it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Great. Well, yeah, I've been reappointed for a full term, so from
Congratulations.
at the city council meeting last week, where I was in attendance to accept the proclamation for Transgender Day of Remembrance, which was 2 weeks ago now. So just to keep that in thoughts in the transgender people that we've lost to violence, and the future that community faces as being a primary target of many politically and culturally. So just to keep that in mind, and keep that in mind with our work as we move forward in the coming months and years. Other than that, wishing everyone a very happy holiday if you celebrate, and time with your family. And Roger, that was fantastic. I love what you said. I'm gonna keep that and probably steal it. Thanks.
I don't have much to say, but I'd like to say thank you for welcoming me to my first commission meeting, and that I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and time with your families.
So I am the resident retired guy, but I'm also tired because I've been very busy. Leslie would like me to be less busy. I've handed you this because it's I appreciate there's a display at the Stanley Art Museum here that you want to see. It's a resident who died of AIDS but did beautiful art and went through the Iowa City school system. This at the Cedar Rapids Art Museum, I'd like to tell you it's free. I don't think it is. But it really is an extraordinary display of art and photography that documents not only voting but human rights. One of the photographers photographed Martin Luther King Jr., Bill Clinton, Truman, Kennedy, and also documented an Islamic family in Cedar Rapids that couldn't get housing, so I had a photograph and it was in the Cedar Rapids Gazette, and all of a sudden there was action about that. I've been working with the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, and we produced a document on Christian nationalism. I've tried to distribute it and make people aware. We've also developed, again, we continue to work on the All Are Welcome resolution. I'm optimistic that the edits will get some attention in Johnson County and perhaps Iowa City. I'm also very mindful of truth giving. SECOAS has opened our eyes to that reality. And I'm also celebrating the holiday with my family. They'll be here. It used to be just 10 of us. Now there's a boyfriend coming.
How lucky you are.
Well, it means that the table for 10, we now had to get another table. And,
Isn't it special that they want to bring their
well, and he
boyfriend?
doesn't like turkey and he doesn't like green beans, so he'll have corn and ham.
Well, sorry. Maybe it's time you bring some cassava to the table, Mark. Yes.
Okay, well, I have only a few things to share. First thing, at the Iman Center, which is the Iowa City Mosque, we have welcomed a Christian homeschooling co-op group. And they were just bringing their children just to know more about us, just to build that relationship, build that tolerance, teach the children. So we had a group of almost 37 total. It was wonderful just to see, people from different faiths, different backgrounds, just sitting together, And I enjoyed, talking to them and hosting the event for them. At such, painful and miserable time we're going through globally and locally even. It's a heartwarming thing to just see those people coming together, to see us, being there with them, and just we're humans together, healing each other, supporting each other, learning about each other. So it was a beautiful thing. It gives us hope. Something else, December 6th, the Coralville Community Food Pantry are gonna do their winter brunch community meal. So it's gonna be brunch for dinner. If you are interested, join us. It's gonna be at the Coralville Rec Center. So again, it's December 6th. It's gonna be at 5 o'clock. So I'm looking forward for it. Usually it's like a family event for us, from the Coralville Food Pantry members, and we became like one family who always look forward for those community meals to work together for 2 consecutive days to provide the food, for the community. So
Did you say what
please,
time that was?
At 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
At the Coralville Rec Center. Yeah, it's going to be hosted by them, yeah. At December 6th,
Yep.
at 5 o'clock. Yeah, other than that, I've been busy just with our community, and I hosted just students, a Friday program since it was an off-school day. We had around 47 to 50 students joining us. Again, providing the space and the time for the children from the same community, sense of belonging, a safe haven for everyone. That's what we strive for, and it was a beautiful thing, again, to see the children coming together and enjoying their time. Something major, it is still that we're still going on, and as such time where we enjoy ourselves with our family members in our houses, in our comfort zones. Please keep those ones who are still suffering, who still, facing famine and destruction and everything. Keep them in your heart and your prayers. Cherish the moment with your loved ones. Nothing is guaranteed in this life. And just let's humble us more for remembering them and bring them to our tables and our comfort zone. So I wish you all, peaceful and lovely time with your families and loved ones. And let's keep those ones in our hearts and minds too, and our prayers as well. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome again, Emily. That concludes our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you again for all your patience and time tonight. I know it was a bit longer than usual.
Thank
Oh,
you.
that is fine.
thank you,
Thank
Stephanie.
you. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.